Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Better Together podcast. I'm your host, Mike Baker. We have a fascinating conversation today with Shelly O'Quinn. She is the CEO of the Innovia Foundation. Our conversation is going to go really deep and wide, talking about how we build stronger communities and what the impact is when we actually work better together. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be great. Well, we're so excited to have you here today and learn a little bit more about the Innovia Foundation. I've lived in this community for 16 years, and I've seen the impact of the work that you guys do across in the Northwest, right? But in our community as well. It's so great having amazing partners like you, and so excited to jump into this.
It is great being here today. Thank you. I
welcome.
always love having the opportunity to talk about the foundation and the great people that we get to work with and the impact we have on community.
That's great. Well, let's jump right into it. Tell us about what a community foundation is, because a lot of people probably have no idea what this is. So let's tell them about it, and then we'll talk about how you guys work.
That sounds great. Yeah, some people, actually a lot of people know who Innovia Foundation is. They assume it's a foundation, but then they say, what's a community foundation? Mm-hmm. And community foundations have been around since 1907, and there are almost 1,000 community foundations around the country. And what makes us unique is that we are place-based organizations. We serve the communities in which we're based. So for Innovia Foundation, we serve Eastern Washington and North Idaho. And community foundations, unlike private foundations, are connecting the generosity of community back to community versus one family or one business. And so truly the power of a community foundation is that it is for and by the people of a particular region.
I love that. Sounds like the theme of this podcast, which is better together, right? It's
exactly.
Just tying everybody together, really caring for the community. So how do you guys do your work?
Well, first, let me tell you how we started.
Okay,
because I love our origin history. We started in 1974, which our region hosted the World's Fair in 1974 in Spokane, downtown Spokane. And the ladies who started the foundation at the time, all of their husbands were working on bringing the World's Fair to our region. Mm. And what they said is that this foundation will have a greater impact than the World's Fair had on our region. And as you know, the World's Fair had a significant impact on Eastern Washington, North Idaho. But I will say that I think those ladies were right. And those ladies are in their 90s today. And we started as a really small foundation that has now expanded over the last 52 years to serve 10 counties in Eastern Washington, 10 in North Idaho, and this really diverse urban and rural communities. And we've contributed over $150 million back into our region since our inception. And that generosity just continues to grow. It's really amazing what they started. That
is amazing. I actually didn't know that about that early foundation. I mean, our organization was founded by Lidwin Durney, similar thing, just this powerful, awesome woman that saw a problem and, predicted the future that these things are going to grow. And I mean, I think a great takeaway from here is just never underestimate those founders that have the vision. That's amazing.
Well, and those ladies said, we can't just be thinking about today. We also have to be thinking about tomorrow and the investments that we're going to be making in our communities tomorrow, and how are we always working to make our community a better place. I love their vision.
Oh, that's powerful. Thanks for sharing that. I thought I knew a lot, but it's great learning new things about it. That's wonderful. Yeah. So how does the work happen? What does it look like?
At its simplest form, a community foundation takes donor generosity, donor gifts, and then we put that back out to work in our communities, and that's both for living donors and legacy donors. And so our donors, though, expect, just like everyone else, a return on their investment. And so as we look at how do we have the biggest impact, we're an endowed organization, And I didn't mention we've grown from $15,000 when those ladies started it to over $300 million in assets today.
That's great.
And it's that continued investment by our community through those endowed funds that allows us to give out more and more every year. And as our donors they want impact. They want to see us supporting our nonprofits. They want to see us addressing the greatest needs of our communities. And so it's through listening to community. It's through identifying different community needs, opportunities that we are then able to leverage resources. We say ignite generosity. That's our mission. Our mission is to ignite generosity that transforms lives and communities. And so we are able to ignite generosity to put it to work to address or take advantage of an opportunity or challenge.
Oh, that's amazing. What was your journey? Like, how did you actually end up in this particular role? Because I always think that part of it's so fascinating because you have a strong organization and then you need great leaders to kind of help shepherd the future. So what was your journey like?
I had one of those journeys where I just walked through doors that were open along the way, and every single experience helped me get where I am today. And so, I am a Spokane native, born and raised in the Valley, and I attended Whitworth University for my undergrad. And then I think like so many in our region who think that our region has nothing to offer them, that they want to go out and they want to see the world and do something else. I literally bought a one-way plane ticket to Mexico and headed south and backpacked my way from Mexico to Panama for 6 months and then landed in Honduras for 3 years.
Wow.
Doing small business development for World Vision. And absolutely loved what I did, but you can only defer those student loans for about 3 years. And then you have to actually go back to school or get a real job.
Yeah.
So I ended up in California for my master's degree and then ended up in Florida after that. When I finally came back to Spokane, I have had the opportunity to work in the nonprofit sector. I then worked for Greater Spokane Incorporated, which is our regional chamber of commerce, and Economic Development Council. Then I served 5 years as elected Spokane County Commissioner and finally landed at the foundation. And so I would say each of those experiences actually helped me be good at what I do because I understand the nonprofit sector. I understand the business community. I know what government can and cannot do and how they can partner. And when you can bring all of those together, that's the power of community, right? We all play a role. No one's going to solve all of the problems that we have. It's not just the role of the business sector to solve a problem. It's not just the role of nonprofits. It's not government's job. But it's really the power of that community. And then you add in that philanthropic piece. You add, that community participation through generous donors. And, that's the magic.
That's so cool. I love that journey of sort of, starting out, seeing, I'm sure you saw a lot of poverty and a lot of challenges, right? As you're traveling the world and you see different things. I love that travel opens those doors for us to see these things. We see it at home, but it definitely, you go out and see that. And then what a cool journey to go there. I love how you tied all those things together of how they help you grow. You can see the need and then you can figure out how to have the impact and then really that business development. And it's all about the relationships. And if we're going to solve problems, we need people to do it and we have to have good relationships. What a great journey. And how long have you been in this role with the foundation?
It will be 9 years in June, which is really hard to believe.
That's really cool. Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. That's great. Yeah. When you think about the work that you've done, so, you guys have funded lots of projects. There's lots of things. Do you have a favorite? It's probably like picking a favorite kid, so it might not be a fair question, but do you have a favorite project or something that you've seen that just kind of matched your vibe and you're like, oh, we did it?
I do. Actually, I have several. And I'll say when I first started Innovia Foundation, we were very much a charitable bank. We were dollars in, dollars out. And that is not my passion. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that's what donors want. Donors want us to put money in the community, but they want an impact. And so when I started challenging our team to say, why can't we do this? Why can't we make these types of investments? And one example, which is one of my favorite stories, is we went to the town of Harrington. I was in my first couple months at the foundation, and we were doing a site visit. And they were asking us if we would invest in their community park that they wanted to develop. Mm-hmm. And it was just a piece of dirt at that time. But they had a great drawing. They had a plan. But they hadn't raised any money. And I walked away from that incredibly excited. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And the team said, well, we can't fund that. And I said, well, why not? They said, well, because they haven't raised any money. And I said, well, let's flip this. I said, why don't we put up $30,000 and tell them that they can't have it until they match it? I said, let's be the dollars on the front end instead of the dollars on the back end. And so the committee, because we are driven by volunteers and our decision-making for our grants, the committee said, okay, let's try it. I love this story because not only did they raise the $30,000, they actually were able to raise over $100,000
Oh, wow.
to invest in their community. And we had checks coming in from all over the country. They basically took their alumni list and sent out an email and letters and asked people to contribute. And so there were $25 checks and $100 checks. And there were gifts from
That's so
all over the
cool.
country coming in to make their community a better place. And that's really the power of a community foundation, is how can we make more possible together?
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, you move into a community from a different place, and, that can be lonely, and, you want to connect. You're going to try to raise your kids here, whatever it is. And like having a place like a park, or, here in our area, there's so many places to gather. I mean, building a strong community really shapes the temperature of space. And, we over here in Coeur d'Alene, like this region, I mean, there's something magic about it. It's really cool to see what happens. You're in a beautiful location. People are coming together. Growth also brings lots of challenges, right? And as you're trying to build community, you have to find those ways to start to tie things together. I'm sure you guys have seen that, with Spokane and everything else. It's just like, how do you keep up with growth and then keep investing in the community? So,
well, it's just so important that we recognize differences are actually what make us special and unique. We don't need to think the same. We don't need to have the same, whether it's political beliefs, religious beliefs, you name it. But what's really important is that together we can come together and actually make a strong community. And the important part of doing that is getting to know people.
right.
Right? I think too often, and I know there's not one thing that created it. I do think social media was a big piece of the division that's happened in our country. But I just think so often it's because we're not connecting. We're not connecting with our neighbors. We're not connecting with other community members. And, that's a big part of what Innovia's work has been over the last couple of years, is really bringing people together. And how can we bring people together in places and spaces that allow neighbors to get to know neighbors, allow community partners to get to know each other and work together rather than working in a silo. I just, so much of our work is actually connecting and being a connector of community, which allows us to mean, it's 2 + 2 is 6 instead of 2 + 2 is 4. And that's, for me, I always say, let's make more possible than we could have done if we weren't doing it, if we were doing it by ourselves.
No, I love it. I mean, we see that division really spilling into the healthcare space. Like it shows up in physical symptoms. It shows up in obviously mental health symptoms. I mean, this isolation, and then, it's so, I feel like I've used this example before. I don't see people generally like screaming and yelling at each other at the grocery store. Maybe sometimes at community meetings it gets a little hairy, but when you're on social media, though, somebody posts something you don't like, it's like humanity goes out the door, and you're like, you're a loser, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, we don't talk like that in normal spaces. And
we would never say that to each other.
And you're just like, why are we doing it here? But it creates that extra division where people then become, hesitant to speak out or reach out. Or if somebody's wearing a shirt of someone that you didn't support, and maybe you're not willing to reach out because you don't want to get beat up, or whatever it is, those things just get in the way. But it's so cool. I think the funnest thing in the world is just standing on the sidelines at a kid's soccer game. All of the kids, nobody cares who they voted for or whatever divisive thing that people are thinking about. It's just like, we're going to just all get together and yell at the referees now.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is. But there's like, people just become united when you have that common cause. And I've loved a lot of the projects that you guys have been talking about and working on, where it's just like, let's somehow knock down that wall, but bring people together, create those human connections, because like that's the only way to get through this mess.
Well, I'm sure you're seeing it in your work, that there's epidemic levels of loneliness in both seniors and in our young people.
Yep.
And that isolation, as we're seeing higher rates of suicide, we're seeing, and amongst all ages. And it's if we don't recognize these challenges and actually work together, then we won't have healthy communities.
Yeah. And, you can sit on the sidelines or you can jump in and, do the work. We have some great examples, here in our community. Mike Schluter's been doing those Monday night dinners. And I mean, what a fantastic example of just somebody saying, I want to do something. And all of a sudden you got a couple hundred people showing up, every week for dinner and people building relationships. I was at your conference recently and we talked about the longest table event. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
I
'Cause
would
think
love
that's so
to.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're taking that Monday night dinner idea and actually through the longest tables, expanding it across our region. And I'd encourage folks that if they're interested in hosting what we're calling the longest tables, which is really getting a whole bunch of people together to we provide the tables and chairs and you provide the food. It's a big community potluck, but you have people from all parts of your community coming together for a shared meal and for shared conversation. And we like to actually bring it around this idea of, this is the 250th anniversary of our country.
Yeah.
So what does America mean to us today? And then who do we want to be as America in the future for our kids, for our grandkids? And you look at how beautiful this community is, the things that we enjoy, the things that we get to do every day, the lake, soccer games, as you mentioned, arts, culture. I mean, all those activities, almost every single activity you touches a nonprofit, which is where we get to come in and make those investments into the quality of life of our community.
Yeah, no, it's really neat to see all of that. And I love that question you're asking at the end there about, what does the country look like after all of this? And I think most people are seeing that, hey, we're not headed in a healthy direction. I mean, whoever you vote for, whatever, that doesn't matter. I think we're seeing that the increased division and tension isn't getting us to where we want to grow. I mean, I grew up, so my parents did an ice cream party at the end of the summer every year, and it was this, similar to that. Like, we did put out long tables, but everybody would bring over a topping or ice cream or whatever, chairs on the front lawn, people just gathering, talking about summer, connecting. And then my dad would start a big water fight every year. And so you have kids out doing water fight. And I mean, our neighborhood was always known as the place to just go hang out. People would come sit on the front porch after that and eat my mom's cookies. And I mean, it was just this gathering place. And there's something magic about when people just have a safe place to gather. And I love that that's a big part of the work that you guys are doing.
And it doesn't have to be complex.
Yeah.
I mean, a church can have a community potluck, a neighborhood, your dad. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a hard potluck. Have everyone bring ice cream toppings and someone provides ice cream. I mean, it could be a neighborhood potluck. It could be, my hope is that someone takes the lead and shuts down Sherman Avenue and that you have tables all the way down Sherman Avenue that, people are coming together to have and celebrate what makes, Coeur d'Alene such a unique and great, beautiful community. And I just love the idea that, shared food and shared space, we get to have conversations, we get to meet our neighbors, we get to meet new people. But it doesn't have to be complex. We can all do it.
Yeah. I mean, it really is just about connecting humans and just almost waking people up. Like, remember, we used to be able to do this. And
we used to do
be
this.
Okay. And we probably do it 99% of the day, except when you turn on the news and social media, then there's all the ugly stuff. But just roaming in the community, I mean, there's something that you feel when people are together. And, there has definitely been increased heat. But I do see a lot more grace. I see people starting to kind of dial down the temperature and go, I don't know that it's great to feel like I have to walk around and hate my neighbor all the time. It seems to be opposite of the instructions we all grew up with. And, we should just out there be loving and accepting and helping people thrive. And, there might be 5 data points that you don't agree on, but everyone else we just want to be safe. We want to have connection. We want to raise our families. I mean, we want to be in this place that's special. And I love, again, that's the work of Innovia Foundation. It's just to really drive this and come alongside and say, let's solve a problem, and you're tying people from the community together.
I always thought, how different would our communities be if instead of sitting on our back porch, we sat on our front porch again?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, it's even that simple movement brings us back into community together.
Yep. Or even, kind of that return of the after dinner walk. Growing up, my family, we always ended up on the front porch, and the neighbors two doors down, this guy named Bob Yagi and Judy, and they would just, every night they'd go out for a walk after dinner, and they'd say hi to all the neighbors. And I mean, it's just, there's a really good example of that. And I know that exists in our community. I think, the other thing we've been talking about before is, how do you amplify the positive energy and the positive vibes out there? Because we have things happen that then seem to dominate the news. And, as employers and, just people that care about our community, I don't love it that if you Google, Coeur d'Alene, all of the beautiful, awesome things we do don't show up first. Sometimes some of the negative things do. And I think we just have to all be responsible for amplifying that work.
Well, and we will be doing that actually in Coeur d'Alene starting this summer. We are doing a partnership with Weave, which is an opportunity for folks to nominate people who are bringing people together in community so that we can tell the story, and then we're going to tell their stories. We're going to tell the stories of people who are working just in the local neighborhood, in the community. And it could be simple. It could be that there's a community garden that is bringing seniors together with youth to develop that community garden. There are weavers all over this community, people who are connecting people back to each other. And we're going to be telling those stories. So if anyone wants to tell a Weave story, it will be going live in June of this year.
I love that. Let's give people just a little more explanation of what a Weave project would look like. And then after, we'll make sure there are resources in the show notes so you can click on that and go get it. But tell us a little more about what a Weave project would look like.
So I'll continue with my community garden story. A community garden by itself is not a Weave project. A community garden that brings the community together. Mm-hmm. So as my example would be, seniors and youth working on that project. It could be that it's a local Saturday morning group that is bringing folks together to do community cleanup. It is any activity or any project that is bringing folks together and connecting them for the betterment of the community. And we'll be doing Weaver Awards, so nominations can come in all year or throughout the summer. And then in late October, early November, we'll be hosting a award ceremony, and we'll select 20 to 25 folks who will actually receive a financial investment into their project.
That's so cool. I love it. I mean, there's not a lot of other organizations out there that have this focus on, truly building community. There's lots of grant programs. All of that's wonderful. I love the call back to the founders, the ladies that founded it, how they said, this is going to be more impactful than the world. I mean, that's huge.
That's a bold statement.
That came in, but then to go look at this and all these years later, see the investments that are coming in. I sometimes wonder, if our founder passed away a few years ago, and I just in my head I'm like, I hope that they're proud of us, right? I think they are. I think they'd be totally excited about what we're doing. But it's like, as leaders, we have to kind of maintain that legacy. Yep. And I'm sure they're thrilled with what's going on. That's great that they're still around to see it and can be active and engaged. That's
one of the hardest parts of the work that we do and explaining the work that we do is people hear or see the different programs. Mm-hmm. They'll see the longest tables. They'll hear the Weave. Maybe they're part of one of our nonprofits who receives a grant through our community grants program. But really what's behind all that is that power of its donors of all levels giving back to their community. I think too often people think we have to have $1 million or multiple millions of dollars to give back. And that does happen. We have a donor. A donor building an ice rink in the city of Spokane Valley, which is amazing, right? But for your everyday person, like we were not actually built on that. Yeah. We were the Community Foundation. Whether you're able to invest $25 Or in the case of our wildfire funds, we've had, kids bring in gifts of $5 in coins. Every single donation or every single investment in community makes a difference. And so all of the programs that we run are either us going after national money to bring to our community, because why wouldn't we?
Right.
If someone else wants to put money into making our communities better, we're going to make that happen. But the majority of it's actually money from local donors who have made an investment into our communities over the last 52 years. And they've left legacy gifts. Our largest funds actually are from North Idaho and serve the 6 North Idaho counties. We put in into the 6 North Idaho counties alone almost $1 million a year, and that's the generosity of community giving back to community. So everything that we talk about here is powered by the generosity of donors that live here, work here, grew up here, were raised here, and want to continue to make an impact here. I
love that. How would people engage with you? I mean, obviously we're out, the website, all that, but I mean, what does that look like for somebody to engage with you?
So many people think it's just cash, which absolutely it is. I mean, people can donate cash to their favorite nonprofits, to their community, but really what where we specialize is helping people turn whatever asset they have into a charitable gift. We like to joke and say that there's only 2 things that we won't accept: no timeshares, and if it's living, we don't want to touch it. Yeah. However, if you have a large enough herd of cows, then we'll have a conversation, because I'm sure we can help you there somewhere. Yeah. But we can help our donors take a business, take a building, take real estate, an art collection. We've had art collections, and we can help them take whatever asset that they have and give it back to their community. And we can turn that asset into a charitable gift. And we have donors that set up funds to support their favorite nonprofit. It's an endowed fund. It supports their favorite nonprofit forever. We have folks that support their church on a weekly basis through monthly and weekly giving. We'll meet donors where they are. If they want to be charitably involved in their community, we'll help them give back generously.
That's great. I love it. I love to ask a question about just leadership in that. So sometimes being a leader is really lonely, right? I mean, lots of challenges coming your way. What's your advice to somebody that's looking to grow into, maybe they hear about your story and the work that you're doing and they're excited about it? What's your advice? What's one thing that somebody could be working on to eventually kind of get into your space and feel more comfortable in a leadership role?
I always say walk through open doors. I never thought I would end up where I am today, but I can say that about every job. So I've loved every job I've ever had. And so I could see myself working there forever. And then a door opened, and I was uncomfortable about it, but I walked through it. And I mean, even the idea of running for office, if you'd asked me as a kid, or even as, in my 20s, would I ever run for public office? There's no way. My family voted, but we were not politically engaged. And so I think it's pursuing your passions, and then walking those passions end up opening doors for you that you don't realize are going to open, and not being afraid to walk through them. And then as you go along that journey, remember the people that helped you get there. I mean, I look back in my life, and, it's everyone from, former Congressman George Nethercutt, who was the one who inspired me to actually decide to run for office. Can't go to Washington, D.C. with a former congressman and not be inspired to run, right? To Rich Hadley, who had run, Greater Spokane Incorporated. Every one of them challenged me to be uncomfortable. And that uncomfortableness is actually what allowed me to step into that next opportunity. And their investment in me is what has allowed me to invest back in the community today.
That's great. Well, and I think, that's the other side of it as leaders, taking those opportunities to be those people that had influenced you. And I've been really excited to see the work that the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber is doing around this Next Gen Leadership Program. And I've been working with Emma, and it's been so much fun to just have an opportunity to do some mentoring. And I always feel like, who am I to like, I'm not that smart. Sorry you ended up with me.
But you
But
have
like
a
we had
story.
these deep, awesome conversations, and it's been so much fun, I think, for both of us to just realize like leadership is a journey.
Yes.
And I'm learning from her. Hopefully have shared something valuable. It's gone really well, but I think it's that investment back in other people as well is so awesome.
It is. And then even when we get to this space of leadership, we can't quit growing. Someone said to me one time, what got you to where you are today is not what's going to get you to where you're going in the future. And so even as leaders, we have to realize that we have to keep growing. We have to keep learning. And that doesn't mean just from learning from people older than us or people that are their same age. It's from learning from the younger folks that are honestly living a different world than we sometimes live, especially with technology. And then it's finding those people that you can be vulnerable with and you can share your journey with. I mean, I'm involved in a couple of leadership groups where I can share my challenges. I can share the non-perfect days because we all have them. And they understand, they've been there. They help me problem solve my problems. And the more that we involve ourselves in that type of leadership, the better leaders we become.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, I always talk about the mask you have on sometimes. I mean, some days you got to show up and put the mask on, and the world's beautiful, sunshine and rainbows, and I'm the optimist. I get it. But, I mean, we have those days where we're just in there going, what in the world is happening right now? And, being able to take that mask off and just be with people that get it, it's valuable. And again, it's all tied back to just building community and, all in these different spaces. I mean, you have to have leaders engaged to drive community projects, and you have to have people involved from the communities to engage in these projects. And we just kind of have to go back to the whole principle of just care for people, and our community can grow. When you think about the next 5 years for Innovia Foundation, what does success look like for you guys?
For me, it's making the impossible possible, doing the things that people say we can't do. And when I say that, it's for what community wants to do. What are the dreams of the community that feel too big? And those are the things that we love to go after and invest in. And it can be as simple as, the town of Oakdale has wanted to buy the Oakdale Mill since the 80s. Helping them buy their mill. That town's on fire. They're redeveloping their community now, right? It could be this community. What's the dream and vision of this community? What are they coming together around that they want to solve that people tell them they're never going to make happen, right? There's always those things that people say will never happen. And those are always the things that I lean towards and I gravitate towards. And maybe it's just both because it's personal philosophy, but it's just really our philosophy at Innovia is how can we make the impossible possible? How can we ensure that every person has the opportunity to thrive? How can we ignite that generosity? And for us, generosity is time, talent, and resources. So how can we bring back a culture of volunteerism in our community? How can we make sure that people are connected? We feel like we live in this world where everyone's going to say, well, no, we can't bridge those divides. And I just disagree with that. I feel like even if it's just in our local community, in our local region, that we can actually create a movement that is our movement. And so those are the things that excite me.
I love that,
It's like knowing that we are doing the work that the community wants done, that we're going and we're helping to make those things possible that no one thinks is possible.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so easy to feel helpless when you think of the big macro picture and say, it's probably like the starfish story, but it's like, I can't stop wars. I can't, stop all the division across the world, but I can smile at my neighbor. I can sit on the front porch with them. We can do all of these things. And then we have employees that work at Heritage Health. I can create an environment that is safe and people can grow and build community there. And then, we influence, we have 25,000 patients that we interact with every year. And so if we can provide a good experience, then those people go out and magnify. And those ripples really are not that hard to start, but you really have to come back in and say, here's the things that I can control, and I'm going to do my very best. And people may think I'm too optimistic or I'm a dork or whatever it is, but it's like, I'm going to start here, because otherwise I might just be crying in my pillow and, feeling like I can't solve any problems. And I don't like to feel helpless.
Well, Just think of the power of just if everyone gave, did one thing a day to help someone else. I mean, that alone, and that could be as simple as, taking someone's garbage can out to the road,
Right.
reading a book to a kid, encourage, and asking a child, hey, how was your day today? What's one thing you learned today? I mean, just that taking that moment of investing even just 5 minutes into someone else, I mean, that would be so powerful. And then if you can take it beyond that into this community, if we can ignite a generosity in this community where people are giving back and they're getting out and they're meeting their neighbors. I mean, I believe that we can create the power movement here for our community that spreads nationally, but it starts here.
It does start here. I love it. I think that's a great place for us to kind of wrap up. I mean, there's a call to action. We're going to pull that out here in a second, but is there anything else you want to cover today as we go? This has been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
I think the power of community is community itself.
Yeah.
And we're better together. So if we can come together despite our differences to make our community a better place, that is the power of community.
That's great. Well, Shelly, it's been so great having this conversation with you. Thank you
thanks
for
for having
sharing
me.
your heart and being part of the community. We've worked together for a long time. I've, seen you in different situations, and you just always bring that calm approach to things, and we're going to solve problems. But I love the fire that you have about like solving problems. And that's the energy that we need. So I think as we send people out, I mean, Shelly said it the best. So as you go about your week this week, do one thing nice for somebody every day, and then tell somebody about it and inspire them to do something nice every day. And like, we're going to spin into something really great.
Yeah. And together we can make more possible in our communities.
I love it. Well, perfect. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next week.